Hey everybody, welcome back to Andertons TV. Today's video is practice focused. And I'm hoping that Pete is going to imbue upon us, if even that's even a word, some cool tips for practicing.
Yeah, well, you know, practicing is important, you know.
What, you mean I can't just buy more pedals?
You can't just buy more pedals, amps, gear, guitars. I mean, you can buy them in a way that they might inspire you to play more or pick a guitar up more. So in that way, there is an excuse for everybody out there who buys gear because they think that it's going to make. Well, it does. You know.
Okay. So this video is accompanying a blog that our guys over in our web team have created. So again, links to that will be below. There might be some more useful stuff here. But Mr.
Definitely
Pete,
more useful stuff over there. In the blog.
I want to talk about how you might use a metronome whilst you're practicing, how you might use a looper, how you might jam over songs,
backing tracks,
backing tracks, and just generally perhaps exercises that you do. If you're, I suppose there's two different things here. If you've got practice tips for just warming up and keeping loose and stuff, and then you've got specific, I want to learn. Yeah,
I mean, so the specific thing that what you want to learn is, I think it's very important that you, if you have a teacher, when I used to teach, although it's many, many years ago now, many moons ago, I think it's very important that you, what you want to play is what you need to start to learn. Because I think if a lot of people who start, or children, and they start with a C scale, and you know, but all they want to do is play Nirvana, you know, they're not going to be interested in playing the C scale. So I think to get that ignition lit, you know, the whole thing inside you with I want to play guitar is you have to practice something that something that you really want to play, because you will learn so much easier, in my opinion. So Lee, tip number 1. Use a metronome. That's my number 1 tip. It could be your number 3 tip, but it's definitely one of our tips here. Use a metronome, whether you're a beginner, or you're intermediate, or you're an advanced guitar player. I think using a metronome is super important. It's super important to learn time, especially if you want to use a looper later on in your playing journey. And you know, you can play anything with a looper. You can play scales, or you can play chords. So if you are a beginner, you can take, you know, your D chord, your G chord, and the A chord, and then you can put your metronome to that, and that will help you change the chords, you know, because your brain has to go in.
If someone's a super junior and have never even used a metronome, don't even know what a metronome is, can you just show it? And also this idea of what the point, you know, because when you hear a metronome, every so often one of the beats sounds a bit different to the other ones. So
it depends. I would say start in timing 4/4, because that's sort of the most, you know, used beginners. It's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 bars, and number 1 always has a different, or not always, but most of the time will have a different click sound to it. So it'll sound like this. Right, so I'm now in 89 BPM, which I would say is a middle of the road kind of tempo. You can get, you know, apps on your phone. You can go to the shop and buy little things that will keep your tempo. They call metronomes, and you know, they're free. So you know, but it's a good tool.
They're not free if you go to a shop.
Not to a shop, Come to Andertons and get free metronomes for everybody.
I don't think I've actually sold a standalone metronome forever.
I used to have one of those things that was going back and forth.
You metronome on your phone. It's loads. And
it's a shame, because I like the ones that ticks back and forth. Anyway, so let's have a really super quick chord exercise where you use a metronome. Let's say you're a beginner and you want to learn to change between, let's just say, 2 chords, super easy, D chord or an A chord, and you want to learn how to eventually play these two at that kind of tempo. But let's say you are very beginning of your career, so you say I'm gonna go 70, 2, 3, and you play 4 on each. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the A. 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to the D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that will help you to learn to change between the chords, right? So when you get a little bit more intermediate, you start playing scales. You know, let's say you want to start with that. we go up to, I'm gonna go 100. I'm gonna go speed here. Right, so that's how we use a metronome to do that. Then there, of course, is loads of different exercises you can do, such as skips notes, or play your favorite pentatonic scale, all with a metronome. And it's great because you learn time, which I think is very important.
Especially if you want to be good at looping, like Pete.
Which we're going to get to in a minute.
Timing. Tip 2. Exercises. So just like I suppose trying to stay fit, of which Pete and I don't do any of, is exercises that just keep your fingers supple and perhaps help with stretches and stuff. Now, exercises obviously will vary depending on your level of experience as a guitar player, but you can, from a relatively beginner phase, just do chromatic.
Absolutely.
You know, so it doesn't really matter where you start. We'll start on a G string like this. And I'm not going for any kind of crazy stretch here. I'm just doing a 4-fret exercise. I'm going to go. Etc.
Yeah.
I go all the way up and then I go back down again. And I would do this to a metronome as well.
Yes.
I can do it in 100 or whatever you want to do. And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And if you get really into it, well, you can start as you come back down. You know. In fairness, you can kind of go.
Yeah.
You can kind of end up doing whatever you like there. And if you're finding, you know, you might want to do stretch. You might want to do 3 notes per string, but actually start to stretch. So now we're going first, third,
just stretch
fifth.
that finger.
Yeah, you see, I'm hopeless on that. But it doesn't really matter, to be honest. We're not playing scales.
I was just about to say,
playing exercises
here.
Yeah. Of course, you can play scales as exercises if you want. I think there's an important sub-tip here. The minute you start to feel like, oh, my fingers hurt a bit, stop immediately. That is not, just like doing any kind of repetitive exercise, you can strain the muscles in your hands, same as if you went to the gym and, you know, did too many repetitions of any exercise, and then, you know, you are going to be out of action for, you know, until your muscles have kind of calmed back down again. So I would have said, you know, I would have said even as a beginner, like 5 minutes a day is enough.
But make sure you coordinate your left hand and your right hand as well. That's very important with up and down strokes, in my opinion. And also, I can show you one little exercise that I kind of like here to do. If you are, let's say, I'm going to take it up here now and be a bit. So I'll go like. And then I'll move my fingers and use these two instead. And then I'll move my fingers and I'll use these two instead. And here comes the really difficult part, is that you hold these 2 fingers down on your frets. You do this with me, Lee. Hold these down. Do not move finger 1 and 2. Keep them on the first string and play. Without lifting off on your 2 fingers. See, I can't even do that. I still do that. It's one of my exercises that I do a lot, because what it does is it just warms up these fingers as well. And a lot of people say, you know, don't use your little finger, but, you know, include it. It just gets a little bit lonely out there sometimes, but
there'll be a million billion exercises. There aren't really any wrong ones, to be honest.
Lots of good ones on YouTube. Lots of our friends, you know.
But yes, metronome always good.
Okay, so tip number 3 is get yourself a looper pedal. And I know a lot of people buy a looper pedal and then they go, I don't know how to use it and it's really difficult for me. Pete, what do I do? And that takes us back to tip number 1, metronome and timing, right? So you have to have time to play with a looper. And a looper is really good for your exercises. See what I'm doing there? Because a looper, if you get it in time, is in time.
It's the most important thing. So again,
so we've got a looper here.
Yeah, and most of these kind of multi-effects units will have a looper inside it, but the Headrush one is really good. So
or you can buy loads of loopers. I'm sure we'll put a link in the description below to all the loopers out there.
Yeah. Yeah, 50 quid
Yeah.
you can buy a simple looper for.
And also there was loopers like an RC3 and RC5 and Boss they'll have metronome built into them, so actually will help you exercise in that manner as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play 2 chords. I'm going to play the D chord and I'm going to play the A chord. And you might notice I do my A chord like this because that's how I kind of like to do it. And that's, you know, you'll eventually get to that. So here we go. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Perfect. And then do your scales over.
And then do your scales over.
Maybe play a C chord and then do your C major
scale
over the top of it.
Well, let's say let's go. So we got. So you can play your scale.
Do you know what?
And so
well,
on.
I do this with metronomes.
Because you get bored.
I double time on the metronome,
Yeah.
and all my playing goes sloppy.
Yeah.
And it's the worst. It's like I can literally hear Justin Sarnicka on my shoulder saying, you know, slow down, Padawan, or whatever he says.
Slow down, slow down.
And it is a bit boring. But I think in my head, I think just think of the looper as a more fun version of a metronome. You're using it for the same purpose in practice tools. It's all about just timing and having fun. Because I kind of feel at some point or other, when you're moving away from doing scales and exercises, what you can then do over the looper is to bring in phrasing and dynamics, and then it isn't about necessarily, you know, everything being 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about knowing.
But it still is. But what you're learning at that point, this is way down the line with the looper, is that you're learning the whole flow of the music. So you can create, like, you know, you can create some a super good vibe, because you'll have to be the whole band.
This brings us on to the next tip, in my opinion.
Tip number 4: listen to the music. So we've got a track on this wonderful Hetros Prime. There's a thing in here. Oh, hang on. This thing in here called a practice tool, and we've loaded in a backing track. And it's all about listening to when you're improvising. So this is further down the line, I would think.
When Pete started working, you know, at Andertons, I think that's what Pete taught me the most, which is that prior to that, I would go, okay, I'm listening to a song and I get the key and I go, oh, I know the blues pentatonic in that key, and the solo becomes like, you know, I'm intentionally doing it, you know, more badly than I would. But I'm now, I watch Pete and I realise that he's waiting for the sort of right moment to play the phrase over the song. And then leaving the song to do its thing for a bit, and then playing something else nice. And I don't mean, you know, like 2-minute pauses. You know,
I think let the chord speak for you in sort of a way. I mean, the backing tracks that I made, the Andertons backing tracks, are all catered to people that only knows pentatonic scales. So, but it'll make you sound much, you know, it's much more exciting to play it.
Perhaps we can have this song in the background quietly, and rather than you play over the top, tell me what you're hearing, the bit, you know, where you're thinking, oh, that's where I would.
This is made so you can play an E minor pentatonic. So wherever you find that on your fretboard. Let's have a listen to when it kicks in here, and then see where we are.
So what do you, I mean, again, I know we can feel the tempo, but you're just sort of thinking like a singer, you know. That's it. And tell me what you mean by that.
So, like a singer, you're thinking, where would a singer sing it? A singer wouldn't go.
Beyonce might do.
Maybe she would, but I don't think singers would find a really nice melody on a track like this. You know, they would go like. I know here it's coming a bit slower bit, so here we go.
I like as well, you're not afraid of repetition.
No.
In a way that, I mean, if you listen to most songs,
yeah, it's repetition.
It's the, you know, each line is the melody. The melody is very, well, it's repetitive, isn't it, through a melody?
And it's about the lyrics.
Yes.
Which means that when you play a solo, it's about how, you know, it can be about how you play that note. Because a note can be played in many different, you know, it's about your vibrato, which is super important. Vibrato is so important because it's the life and the breath at the end of a note, in my opinion, you know.
We'll add vibrato as a tip.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But and, this is what we'd call phrasing, right?
It's phrasing, you know, and I think it's like speaking, you know. It's like saying something. It's like you wanted to say something softly to someone. You don't want to say something, you know, I love you. You don't want to say that to them like that because you just the way it comes, it has to where the lick has to come across has to fit with the music, you know.
For guitar players that are more advanced, that are going, oh, you could play this here and you could play that. That's not really the point of this. I think it's about you play anything you like over this.
Yeah.
If it sounds good, I think it is just about the tip was listen to the music. Yeah. So it's listen to the music and play in the bits that feel appropriate rather than just mindless.
Ariel Poulsen calls it scalitis, doesn't he? Where instead of playing too many scales up and down all the time, while it's very impressive and you can do it and you know what keys goes with what and this, you know, the Ionic and the Dorian and all these different vibes you got. In my opinion, as I grow older, it's more important to, you know, to hunk down and play one note in a million different ways.
Now, before we move on to our next tip, there is one cool feature that you will find on the Headrush Prime, and you'll find again on other bits of software I've seen around and apps, but it's not super common. And this is that you can speed up and slow down these songs without changing the pitch. Yeah. So
if I speed this down here,
let's say what we've done is load in a piece with a particularly complex guitar lick in it, or it doesn't have to be complex, but you're just going in at the speed that it is on the track, you just haven't got time to work it out. Yeah. On something like this, you can slow it right down, keep slowing it down. The pitch isn't changing.
I'm still in the same key.
So we're still, we did a slightly more in-depth thing of the we were really impressed with the practice tool on here,
it's
speeding
really
up. Again, another thing that if you can find a device that does pitch change without changing the tempo, so that's the opposite. So we were showing you a tempo change without changing the pitch. If you do the opposite of that, it's super handy when you want to jam along to your favourite Stevie Ray or Jimi Hendrix tune and you realise that they've played it in E flat and you're still tuned to E. You can just literally up a semitone and off you go.
It's super cool. Tip number 5, find your own voice. I think it's very, very important. Especially controversial is, for me as a player, how I've sort of always done it and looked at it was look at people playing out there, you know, Stevie Ray, Eric Clapton, John Mayer now, you know, Steve Vai, whoever it might be. There's so many amazing guitar players, and then take the bits from them that you really like, that really inspires you to create yourself. Because there's no two people that are the same, thank God for that, because it would be a very, very boring world to live in, you know. And if we all played like Stevie Ray, no offense to people that does that out there, it would just be boring, you know. So I think it's very, very important to find your voice in the music, because you play how you are, I think.
I kind of feel there's no... If you idolise Stevie or Eric Clapton or whoever it might be, John Mayer, whoever, and you learn that person's style,
there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with that. And but I kind of feel like you'll forever be in that person's shadow. You're never going to do them better than they did themselves. So you're better off trying to incorporate your own flavour of it.
Exactly.
So, you know, you can hear the influence of, I mean, you can hear the influence of all the, you know, Freddie King and Albert King and B.B. King in what lots of blues players play. But, you know, hopefully people like Stevie Ray or Eric Clapton or John Mayer, they do develop their own, Joe Bonamassa, you know, you can hear the influences they draw, but they then somehow add their own thing in. And that might be, if you take B.B. King or those, you know, might be vibrato or the way you bend a note. It might be Eric Johnson in the way you hear runs.
But that's all that's all because they're individual people with something to offer as on a personal level at the same time. I do think that that's really how you are as a person shines through your playing. How would you tell a story? It's the same, how would you play a guitar solo? You know, like films, like a really good film, it comes in the beginning and then there's a little bit then you're interested and then it goes down here and then something happens so it keeps you interested in it and then it goes down and then you want a big finish off at the end, you know. And I think a lot of people forget that. They just scale over there and then, you know, so I think, and you'll find that because how you are as a person will reflect in the way you play. So
last tip.
Play.
Last tip is find a guitar player that's better than you are and start a YouTube channel with him. No, jam. Yeah. Jam with your friends. You don't have to, personally for me, I've been incredibly lucky in that I've always been the second best guitar player in the room, unless there were three of us, and then I'd be the third best. But I mean, you know, the guy I was in my very, very first band with, the guy's name's Richard, who I still chat to on Facebook sometimes. He was a much better guitar player than I was. I learned a lot from that. All the YouTube stuff I ever did, you know, whether it was Rob Chapman or you or Rabir or whoever, all better guitar players than I was.
There's something to say for that.
And it helps. Obviously, I guess, you know, at some point or other, when you get to Pete's level, and you know, I suppose you're just looking to play with other good musicians. But I think if you can find someone who'll put up with you, so you've got a friend of yours or whatever that is just better than you are, it's a great way to.
But that's inspiration, isn't it? It's inspiration, and whether you get that from looking at Facebook or Instagram post, you know, you get somebody here. Oh man, don't let that put you off. You know, when you're looking at Instagram posts or people playing live or whatever you're looking at, don't let it put you off and go, oh, I'm never going to play my guitar again because I'll never be that good. That's not the point of it. It's going to go, let me pick my guitar up and practice. That's what you need to do. And then play with bands, find a band. One thing is sitting on Instagram or playing with Lupus or playing with backing tracks. Another thing is to go out and find a band, find a drummer, find a bass player, find a keyboard player, find a singer if you're not a singer yourself, and then just play whatever that comes to mind. You know, play Mustang Sally, I don't care what it is, because it's not about that. It's not about what you play Metallica, whatever. It's about the camaraderie and the excitement it is to put your guitar in the back, go into a rehearsal room, and then just playing some music.
I was a pretty low standard, and the band would just, it didn't matter. We'd play at school or we'd play at parties, and you'd learn some easy covers.
Doesn't matter.
And again,
it's the joy of it.
It's just a great.
Yeah. And you know what? It's you know, when I sit and do my Instagram posts at home and putting yourself out there is another thing, you know, because you will have people, you know, having a go at you and all that stuff, and you have to be able to have a bit of thick skin, which is now when we were young.
We should jam out. There is tip 7, which is obviously buy a new pedal from Andertons at least once a month. That will really help. But yeah, let's. Thank you very much for watching. Go read the blog that our guys have written about this. There might be some other useful stuff.
It'll be much better than this.
Probably. This was a bit rambly, wasn't it? So we'll jam out over that song. We're both plugged into the Head Rush. Why not?
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
And yes, you can find, by the way, all of these songs on Apple Music.
Yeah, there are links everywhere, and YouTube and Spotify.
6 or 7 albums worth
60
of backing tracks. Is there?
60 tracks there are out there. I need to make some more, I think.
You do. Anyway, that's on Apple Music. It's on Spotify as well, or just Spotify, Apple Music? Everything. There you go. Go find them. Links below. Right. Thanks for watching. Have fun practicing your guitar.
Practice doesn't make perfect. It makes improvement. Practice makes improvement.
Not quite so catchy, is it? That?
No, but it is.
See you later.
Facts.